Riding side hits is one of my favorite things to do in all of snowboarding, but I haven't given it the same love and attention as I have my freestyle riding. And that's because I sort of took it for granted that if you're good at park riding, you'll be good at riding side hits. But this year, I'm planning on changing that and giving it the time and dedication it deserves. And I'm just really looking forward to trying to expand myself as an all-mountain snowboarder. So to start that, we're going to go and deep dive this video, figure out what's causing me to have this little bit of funk, this little bit of arm flail, and what can I do to start riding side hits more like Arthur Longo. We got a lot of clips to cover in here, so we're not going to deep dive everything, but we'll deep dive enough to really get a good sense of what's going on. And the biggest thing is familiarity with the features. A lot of these flails are going to just be from me not knowing what's about to happen. Like here, I'm landing right on this flat nub. So you can see that from the air, like, okay, I'm about to drop 20 feet onto flat. You're going to need to flail because of a couple reasons. First, you need to go and balance out your board, make sure it's flat, because if you landed nose down like you're trying to hit the transition, you would nose pick, have a really bad time. So that's one of the things that you really want to remember while watching this video is any arm flails, any jank isn't happening because that's just what you want to do. It's your body rebalancing and recalibrating for some error you made off the takeoff. At the end of the day, side hits are completely takeoff based, so if you don't get a good takeoff, you're not going to get a good side hit. This feature here is like a prime example of something I'd want to do more at. It has a nice kick, it has a good transition and a little bit of landing, so you could gap here, do butters, a bunch of really fun things. But instead, because I didn't know the feature, I just came and took the safe approach to hit that transition, and that's going to be one of the big parts of my training. But one of the things that you will be noticing here is I'm pretty good at landing even when things are a little unpredictable. And that's going to be from this position here, upper body squared, and then shifting over to that back foot and absorbing the impact through there. And then what you also want to be doing is sort of like jamming your legs and not letting yourself get too compressed when you're going through powder. Powder works sort of like a sponge, so you can go and push into it to kill your momentum, what you can't really do in the same way on like super hard pack. So powder riding sort of involves a bit of a different landing principles than you would want to be using on something like park. And yeah, this feature is pretty cool. You can actually ride off it on this front here, but you have to go hike up into the woods and it's pretty scary. So I just hit this little feature on the side. And let's go and see. Yeah, pretty clean, but you can see not really getting that much height, not really getting the arms, and it just doesn't really look quite right. So why is this happening? Coming up, extending, and I think the issue here is just not getting quite enough juice. This takeoff here is slightly angled downwards, so this would be a better instance to use an ollie instead of just a straight pop. Here, I'm just relying on tail pressure and pulling my upper body forward. And because of this, it's not really kicking my legs up to me. So I'm relying on extending and having that kick bring those legs up. But because this feature doesn't really have any oomph, my legs are sort of just staying down there, and I sort of need to try shift them and get into it. The other issue here is my weight's a little bit set over the heels, so this just makes it so I can't really get that nice platform to get my legs brought up to me. So a little bit heel heavy, and that's coming from just a little bit of overextension. And normally you'd probably be able to get away with this if the takeoff had a little more kick. So again, that was my first time ever hitting that feature, and that's really what we're gonna wanna work through is how can we get more consistent on features that we're less experienced with? Because if you ride, like if you hit that hit 20 times, you're going to do it a lot better than you would the first time. So here, I was trying to go and hit this little pillow beside this tree, but it was a little hard for me to get into. So you can see that I landed a little short. My nose hasn't really crusted the pillow. This means I'm going to have to take the whole impact of the pillow and try to absorb it coming in. And that's just pushing me a little bit towards the back seat. But this is happening because of actually not really taking the time to commit to this feature. Because this feature has such a small landing pad and you have to get so close to the tree, I went and started from really close so I could just point my board and go into it. And this has to do with the top terrain. It was really flat up there. You would have had to go and hike and roll in from a pretty far place. And that would have made it really hard to go and get this proper angle. And because of this, I didn't really have the speed. So I tried to go and pop to it, overextend the upper body with the arms. So I had to do an arm flail to go and bring everything back in. Didn't land where I wanted to on the pillow, and it bucked me a little bit to my back foot. So to ride this feature better, what I'd want to do would be go make a little line in the snow so I can set my angle and then hike back up and take a little bit speed so I can follow that speed and get into that pillow a little bit cleaner. And from there, would be able to readjust and just like power through it a little bit better. This looks like a really bad landing position, but it's actually generally okay in powder because as you compress in, you'll have time to like shift your upper body. And what I really like about this position is actually the fact that the upper body's tilted forward like this. The issue is because I'm a little bit too extended, you can sort of see my weight's a little bit set over the heels. And that's coming back to, if I go back a second, that's coming back to hitting here, and you can sort of see that angle of the features kicking me slightly towards that back foot. So as I go and extend to try save it, just a little bit heel heavy. And this snow was a lot more shallow than I was anticipating. Like you can see, it's like 10 centimeters. So my landing position just sort of got me crunched up. If I would have kept my weight a little bit more over the toe edge and kept my board going more on this angle, trying to continue that momentum, would have been able to ride away. So that was a miscalculation of speed and a miscalculation of what the snow was going to do in the actual landing, leading to flails with the arms and not coming through. And that's going to be something that I'll improve this year just through practicing side hits more and riding more terrain, is getting less bucked and less unpredictable situations happening. This is just something that I gotta fix. Like, look at how I'm dropping in here and then the arms are coming up and we're sort of needing to flail back down. This is completely unnecessary. My arms have no reason being this high. And again, I think it's coming from the technique of trying to just go and leave off at tail. And because this is really downhill, there's nothing to like snap my feet back up to me. So my upper body is all the way over here. My legs are extending down, holding pressure, but I'm not actually initiating a lift. So again, for this kind of feature, it would have been better to go and use an ollie like around here. Ollie from here, so that way you can get that up motion, have your board naturally come up to you and get into the transition. The issue is, again, first lap of the day, so coming in blind, I wasn't sure what the landing was going to look like, so I waited a little bit. But if I would have, if you would have cruised this with a lot of speed, could have gapped it all the way into like this pillow field here and hit a pretty sick feature. Obviously this trees a little bit here, but this is the kind of stuff that you can really increase with planning. So instead of just having this being a setup feature, I could have had it coming, so I'm coming up here with a lot of speed, trying to ollie up, slash into this, coming across. Instead, I just sort of ride down in not a good position. Then it comes and drops a little bit lower and a little bit flatter than expected. And whenever you do that falling motion, don't really have it so you're going up, you actually want to keep yourself a little more crunched, because or else you'll just feel like your legs are sort of falling. That will make it so your legs are falling, your body's falling. As your body's falling, your arms will get left behind. So as I'm like falling, the arms are getting left behind here. And that's where that little bit of funk's coming from. So that's pretty interesting. Here, decent pop, but there's that little bit of arm flail. A lot of these mistakes could be hidden by hitting a grab, but I actually really like how jumping feels without hitting a grab, and I feel like grabbing's a little bit cheating for style sometimes. It's better to get a good pop and then hit it with a good grab instead of relying on the grab to make things good. So this looks like honestly a really good pop to me. I'm going and having board angled. The chest is really open here, and that's because I'm trying to get it opened into that landing. Hips are a little bit open, matching it. Let's see, where do things crunch? Okay, so this is actually a little bit too done. So see how my upper body here is like really open, chest, hips open. This is going to cause my board to try and match that angle. So as I went and popped up here, the hit was bigger than I expected. I was sort of expecting to like land right here with a really steep landing, but I'm traversing a lot further than I'm going high. So that means my board's now angled too sideways. So I'm actually going to need to go and readjust to try get it more angled into this direction here. So this would have been better off taking off a little more straight like a jump and trying to land like with an angle going down this way instead of up and down like a hip so much. So again, I'm saying it a lot, but it's a failure to really like ride the feature how you're supposed to. I hit it really expecting it to hit just exactly like a hip, doing that hip angle, but looking at this landing now, you could have hit it a lot faster and had your board angled this way, so you would have landed here, here, or even over here. And I know some people like Arthur Longo are landing all the way over on this back nub here. So that's just not quite the right way to ride that feature. And that's going to be the thing. Like, I'm pretty confident with my pops. I got some good jump fundamentals, but when you go and execute things in the wrong way, it's going to really funk you up. So like here, this is actually a pretty bad air, but when you get like that nose grab, you can be a lot more stable, and then like any shifts and rebalances aren't very noticeable. And this one is a bit of a sniper landing. You don't have much landing on this feature, and you combine that with a really big takeoff. So normally when you're riding side hits, you want to be really like popping and trying to get the most height out of it. But because the landing on this feature is so incredibly small, like if we look at it, you can land like here, down through here, but really if you're landing like past this point, you're pretty boned. Like when I landed this, I was like, oh, that was huge. So getting a look at it here, you can see it's a really small landing. And if you go and drift, you can actually get into these trees, and then it sort of hits a ditch here. So you really only have like this window to land in. You could land like on the pillow right here, but it's a fine line between landing flat or landing in it. And that's going to make it really tough to like dial in how much pop you should be actually doing on it. Especially if we go and look back, you can see that it's a really long in run. What I do in the future when I'm trying to do a side hit day is find a drop in point. You don't want to be guessing speed, and the longer you're going and like carving in, doing changes with the terrain, the more you're going to need to calibrate and guess with your speed. So if I went and slowly started hitting this feature with a little bit of speed, then a little bit more, then I could have dialed in, and that would give me a platform to do a more confident pop. Instead, I'm keeping my legs a little bit bent, hitting a slight extension, keeping my upper body more exaggerated forward, so that way I can hit the grab easier. Just a really natural position. The problem I'm seeing here is how squared my hips are. It's not really letting my upper body come forward and hips go back a little bit. And I think that's why as I'm popping up, I'm coming in and landing a little bit like tail heavy. See here how I'm like shifted towards that back heel and my feet are like centered. And I'm needing to pull my upper body down, really exaggerate to like compensate for this. There's like certain levels where the arms look good and are doing stuff for you. And there's certain levels where it's like, okay, that looks like it's flailing. So like here, arms are in a good position, they look cool. But since I'm riding that position and I try pop with them, now see how my shoulders are like popping over top of my head? This is going to make it so if you don't have any kick to bring your legs up, you're gonna need to drop your arms down. And that's going to make it a really big up and down motion where you really want those arms a little more stable, just really extending and elongating with the actual torso itself. And so looking at this video, I think I'm going and letting my arms lift up a little bit too much. Instead, I should be letting my whole body extend and push through and not trying to lift those arms up quite as much. Here again, popping up, elbow all the way overhead, all the way over the head, doing a good job of like keeping this little bit of hinge, good extension. Could get a little bit more range of motion and power off of this. So what I mean by that is, see how squared my hips are and my upper body is not really bent forward? When we go and look at some of the better side hit riders in the world, they're going to be down more, they're going to have their hips a little more open, and they're going to be shifted even lower to give themselves more range of motion. Because I have a small range of motion, it's just not as much room to generate power and snap. What I do a really good job here is not rushing for like a grab or anything, but I do it a little bit too much and have the upper body come too tall for the kick I'm getting off a jump, and then I'm going and having too long of a period of time to get the legs up. And you can see I actually can't get my legs up here, and instead, in order to do my center of balance, the upper body comes forward. What you really want when jumping is to have your legs snap off the end and then come up and lift up towards your chest. But here, because I extended my upper body too much and didn't go and get enough snap off my tail, my legs sort of just stayed behind. And because my legs are staying behind, I don't have the ability to bring them up. So to reshift my center of balance, I can't do it through how much bends in my angle and everything moving together. So instead, I need to pull my upper body forward independently to my legs. And that's making it so as I go and land, it's going to be more impact throughout the spine. Where if I would have went and been able to keep myself a little bit more vertical, so that I mean like, see how my head's like a little bit lower here than it needs to be. If my head was like on this angle here and the legs were bent up, that would have given me the same center of balance. And that would have made it so when I went in impact, I wouldn't have got crunched this far forward, and I would have been able to push through the landing a lot more. And that's just going to make it so you can land a lot cleaner. So what I'm really noticing here is overextension on the lips of the jumps, and how I can compensate for that is adding more range of motion on the actual in-runs, because the amount I'm actually extending is really good. It's just I'm not pushing the legs enough to get that snap on these features. So like that's why these takeoffs would work pretty good for like park jumps that have a little bit of kick, consistency, but on these flatter features, it's making it so my arms are sort of staying up here, my core is staying elongated, and then the legs aren't coming in super clean. Here, another prime example, going really slow into this feature. To be fair, this feature, there's no room for speed. There's this tree that you need to gap, and I didn't even know if this was gonna be possible. So when I was up there, I was actually pretty nervous for this one. So what I went and did is rolled in, popped, extended, and look at, yeah, my arms are extending up before my torso. So I'm actually lifting my arms independently to my torso, lifting with me, and that's leading to this a little bit of disconnection. Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, we have a really bad frontside 360 here, and why it's bad is for a couple of reasons. First things first, look at how my board's approaching on this really strong angle. So that means I'm going to need to be really aggressive, shifting it to my heel edge to try get adjusted for the angle of the feature. It would have been way better to come like a little straighter and then be a little more patient getting off this line instead of like, that's going to make it so it's really hard to stay straight. And now my shoulders angled this way, hips are angled this way, all for this corner of this jump. Remember, this jump we want to be hitting it a little more straight. And that's going to make it so as I go and start to snap my spin, I'm now taking off completely angled this way instead of angled this way. So this is a harder approach, but I've been working on my setup cards a lot, and I think it's going to really help for things like this. So for this now, what I do is try to approach more confident on that toe edge and try to use a much more subtle shift to the heel edge, taking off almost as if I was taking off hard way, so I could hit more of that corner and hit it more straight. That'd make it so my upper body didn't pre-spin as much, and I'd get a cleaner snap and would be able to land with less rotational energy. For this backside 360, this is actually pretty much how you do it. So I think I've been bad for opening up my upper body too much and trying to rely on that too much instead of trying to just like rely on a little bit of shift coming into the landing to re-angle. You can go and take off with your chest open if you want to go and get things like this, but you're not going to get as clean of power. So as we're both popping here and we're leaving off the lip, the other thing that I'll note is like, see how as I'm snapping, I have my weight a little bit too set to a front foot. So as my tail snaps off, my board sort of like levels out. Where if we look at Arthur Longo, as he pushes through that lip, his board holds the same position coming off the jump the whole way. And he's getting that whole like chest lifted up, where my chest is sort of like lifting down and tilting down here. So I'm missing a little bit of extension. Obviously, Arthur Longo is the best in the world, so he's going to be juicing and maximizing these features. But the reason why I think this is problematic right here is because of how much I'm extending my legs. I'm actually extending my legs more than Arthur Longo here. And you don't want to have 100% extension of the legs because it's going to make it so you need to activate muscles and add bend to them before you can bring them up, adding a whole nother motion. So I think a big reason why I'm getting stuck in this locked leg position is a little bit of overextension, and I'm used to that park jump sort of like helping fight that. But on these flatter features, yeah, look, my board is sort of like heavy on that toe edge popping up, not completely flat based here. And that's a good indication that it's like a little bit of a 2-foot jump. And then when we look at like body positions coming off the lip, I don't have that much movement being done at the last second here. So I don't think I'm following through with my motion quite as clean as I could be here. Overextending the legs, over twisting the upper body, and that's just making it so I can't bring my legs up. And I'm keeping the same center of balance, but look at how Arthur Longo brings his legs up to do it, where I'm being forced to really hyper pull over my upper body. And the last part